Welcome back to the Illuminated Path. This is episode 48. What are we talking about today?
We are talking all about yoga. If you heard us in the last episode, we talked about how we just joined a yoga studio near us, and there's just so many amazing positive things that we can share about it and benefits. So we wanted to do an episode about it.
Yeah. How's the week?
The week is good. I am working on a very, very exciting collaboration with someone that I met. She actually lives in California. And we are working on creating a free master class that's coming up very soon. I don't have the definitive details yet, but it's going to be at the end of August. So I will share more information on that very, very soon.
Yeah. I'm showing up less and less on these episodes.
Yeah, she's going to be a guest on here at some point. And yeah, it's been a really cool journey collaborating with someone. I mean, the energy that we both bring, like everything just feels right. And I'm excited. So
Yeah, I'm so happy. I know that like every time you talk to her, you're fired up and you guys have so many ideas. And I think from the other side of it too, it's good to know that like she's pulling her weight in the sense of like, frankly, we are driven people, and it's like when we're passionate about something, we're working on it, and you tend to expect that from other people you're working with, and you don't always get it. So it's great to know that that's there for you, and that you guys are really just moving along and collaborating really well.
yeah, so more to come. Really exciting. Yeah, and in other words, I just started going to the gym with my best friend of 27 years.
Yep.
Shout out Courtney. It's been really cool. She joined the gym that we go to, and 3 days a week, like it aligns with our schedules. So we've been going together, and
It's
it's really
amazing.
fun.
Yeah. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah. So also shout out to her husband, Carmine, who listens to all of our episodes.
Yep.
We appreciate you.
Appreciate you, bro.
What about you?
Yeah, I've been making solid progress with my naturopath. My last batch of lab work came back, and my liver doesn't look sluggish anymore, which is great. Yeah, I just lots of stuff. I've been losing weight. Um, in my music, I started experimenting with samples. So like I used to make all my songs from scratch, and starting to play with like, making samples. I actually literally like made a song in an afternoon, which was really cool. So I'm excited to kind of see how that can progress into me putting out more music and doing things a little differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm getting into watches, which is a whole thing. So let's get started with yoga. So like you said, we recently joined a yoga studio. We did a 3-class trial.
Mhm.
And that was great. And I think that it's just been a really interesting journey. So we want to kind of talk about our journey, and then we're going to talk about the history of yoga and some of the benefits, because I think that there are a lot of misconceptions about yoga.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to get into that.
Yeah. So, first, like how we started with yoga ourselves. So, I mean, I've been doing yoga for years. I actually started at my old job. Someone there would hold yoga classes like once a week in the office because he was a yoga teacher. So, that was
Mm,
like my very first time ever trying it. So, it was very low stress. I knew everyone I was with. It was like maybe 4 people. So, it was nice.
yeah.
And then I kind of graduated to trying some different studios. This was probably like 2018 ish. And then I moved to really doing a lot of online practices like Yoga with Adrienne. I think we've probably mentioned her before, has amazing, amazing online classes.
Big fan.
Yeah. And so I really got into her even more like during the whole pandemic in 2020,
Yeah.
since a lot of the yoga studios were closed. And, during that time, I was even doing like Zoom yoga with some of my friends and really getting into it that way. And then every year she does a 30-day yoga challenge in January. So I've done that for the past 4 years. And that's been incredible. So I've always had like yoga here and there in my life. I
Yeah.
would go to a couple classes here and there over the past few years. But then we really decided like, yeah, we love our at home practice, but being in a studio is just different. So we gave that a shot, and now like it's awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, that's been a journey for me too, because I think for many years I didn't want to go to a yoga studio. And I was fascinated by the idea of hot yoga because I just freaking love to sweat. But I was kind of on the fence because it's really a personal thing for me, and it's so my yoga journey, I started in high school. I was doing P90X, and that was in the recovery part of the program. You would do an hour and a half yoga session, which was already like kind of crazy because every workout was like 30 to 45 minutes, and then it's like boom, you got your yoga day. It's an hour and a half.
Mm.
So I learned a lot of the poses and stuff there, but it wasn't really like a yoga practice. Um, so I did it on and off for years, and then you and I kind of got into it a little more, and we did yoga with Adrian, and then I did one of the monthly challenges with you.
I
But
bought you your first mat
you did buy me my
a few
first
years
mat.
ago.
Yeah. And then with everything with my lung, I kept injuring myself and it was happening again. And so yoga really became the only thing I could do. It was my only real exercise. And I really leaned into that. And it became a very important time, not just for like, oh, I'm getting exercise, but really for connecting with myself, reconnecting with my body. I mean, that's a time I'm literally listening to my lungs.
Mhm.
And so it really just became this very personal time. And that was kind of why I was hesitant about going to a studio because I want the quiet. I want to be able to breathe and just listen to my body and my breath and also just focus on being present. And I found that, it's very different than like yoga with Adrian, where I'm looking at a screen and I'm trying to refer to it, which can be great. But the energy of having a community where you're doing your own practice, but collectively has been phenomenal.
Yeah, and something one of the teachers said that we have been going to, she's one of our favorites. We do the hot power yoga with her. She said, like, there's nothing comparable to, having that energy in a classroom with the teacher and
Yeah.
just being in that space, in that community. It's like a powerful energy. So, yeah, an at home practice is incredible, and it's very beneficial, and it's absolutely something I would recommend to people if they want to get into it. But if you're ready to like take that next step and really be in a community and like feel that energy, a studio is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And I like it too, because it's really like, everybody's doing different things. Like there's people who are very advanced in our yoga classes,
Mhm.
there's people who are just starting out, and then there's you and I who are kind of just smack dab in the middle.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just really a beautiful thing to practice that. And for me, yoga, our teacher a lot of times says set an intention for your class, for your practice today. And for me, it's always just honoring my body. Like I'm celebrating the way I can move and what I can do and how good I feel and I feel better after it. And also being grateful for two great lungs that are going strong, you know?
Yeah, it's incredible like how you can go from the beginning of class to the end of class. I know we've
Mm,
both talked about like our
yeah.
breath is shallow at first and we're having a little bit more of a hard time to like connect with our breath and really settle in. And then about probably around that halfway mark, I get really like in
Hmm.
sync with
Yep.
every movement to every breath, and it feels so much easier once you get to that point because it's just, like, flowing and it
Yeah.
just works, and then, the rest of the practice just is incredible.
It's like that powerful moment where you realize like I'm here.
Yeah.
And it finally all connects and you're not yeah, because like we've said and like it happens to me a lot at the beginning of class. I can't We typically, you'll start cross-legged sitting down and I struggle to like sit up straight and breathe in a regular cadence, and it's just kind of like the stress of the day gets at you and you really don't see it until you have that moment of I'm sitting still now.
Yeah. So that's just where we're at now, and we're going, at least about twice a week, and there's different classes like the hot power flow yoga, there's gentle yoga, there's multi-level yoga, so that's really awesome too. Like, you can give
Mm,
yourself a more slow and relaxing practice, or you can challenge yourself. Like, the hot power flow yoga, that is quite a workout. I mean,
I'm just dripping sweat.
yeah.
It's just like I am just doused.
And it's, like, so cool because it's a full workout, plus, like, you have really regulated your nervous system, like, your breath
Yeah.
is in sync, so it's just, like, everything in one.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point is, yoga, you have something for everyone. And it's kind of like I think about it in the sense of like we always say exercise or something for everyone. Find exercise you enjoy. And yoga is that in its own right because you can have just like simple, slow stretching, or you can have like really intense poses, or you can have like balance poses, and or you can have, shavasana, is that shavasana? Corpse
Mhm.
pose where you're just laying down, And so there's all kinds of like ways to do it depending on where you're at that day. And I think that's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah. So then we can get into a little bit of like history background stuff just for anyone who
Yeah.
doesn't know or might be curious about it.
Do you want me to do this?
Sure.
So I think what's really interesting about yoga is it is over 5,000 years old. It is a very old practice. And what you and I talk about a lot and share with people a lot is that what we know today as meditation is really what yoga was.
Yeah, they didn't have all the poses or what we call asanas today.
Yeah, all that movement is kind of the more like modern progression of yoga.
Mhm.
A lot of it was more along the lines of meditation. So, um, where yoga actually started, it was a practice of spiritual development and self observation. The idea was that you were connecting your mind and your body, and it's giving you kind of that presence. And I think really where it becomes powerful is you're syncing your breath to the movement.
Mhm.
A lot of times you go to a yoga class or you watch it online, you'll hear sync your breath to the movement. And when you do that, you just enter this flow state
Mhm.
where you're like supremely present and you're feeling your body, you're there, and you can truly be present and experience it. And that's really, I feel, when it becomes a powerful experience.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, and so I also said, it's about showing up as you are. I think so. I've had my right leg was a little tighter recently, and so like I needed a block on one side, and it's really just like appreciating where your body is, celebrating that, but also respecting that. Different days are going to be different. Different days you're going to have different pains in different areas, and it's time to take inventory on yourself and feel that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody in the class is very focused on their own practice. People are so supportive. Like it
mhm,
can be intimidating to go to a class at first because you think, oh my gosh, everybody's going to be so much more advanced than me or something. Everybody is very focused on their own practice.
mm.
However, I won't lie and say I don't ever look over at someone. And if I do and I see how they're up in like some headstand or inversion of some sort, I'm like, that's awesome.
It's like a beautiful thing. You're like,
It's
good
so
for
cool.
you, you
Yeah,
know?
and if I see someone modifying, I'm like, "Cool, good for you.
Yeah,
You're doing amazing."
yeah,
Like,
like
it's just such a positive environment to be in.
yeah, and I think that's huge. I think a lot about my relationship with MMA, and it was very different. Like you and I have talked a lot about this. Is yoga and MMA have done very similar things for me, yet they're vastly different worlds.
Mhm,
Um, and so I think it's just that you go to an MMA class, you're getting corrected on every like micro adjustment, and you need a partner, and you're there, and a lot of times you're talking, you're trying to understand a move, and yoga, you have your own practice, but you're there with other people, and everybody's working on their own practice together.
mhm.
And I mean, I've truly reached this point where like when I put my mat down and I'm standing on it, like I'm in another world, and
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So what are the benefits?
Benefits of yoga. So, Kate and I watched Perfect Match, was it a while
Yes.
back? And some punk on there was like, yoga's not exercise.
Yeah, he was like a whole thing. He was arguing with his match, and I was like, "You have no idea what you're talking about." And she was
Clearly,
very much like, "Yeah, it is."
clearly never done yoga.
Never done hot yoga. That is not
Yoga
easy.
in general is exercise.
Absolutely, but even, like, if you wanna say, like, getting a really sweaty, like,
Oh God, yeah.
long, like, really you're building so much muscle and
Oh yeah.
endurance, like, that is absolutely a workout, and it's probably more intense than even you could do at, like, a gym. You can weight lift and not
I
even sweat like the way you do at yoga.
I burn more calories at hot yoga than I burn lifting weights.
There you go.
Yeah. And I do it for pretty much the same duration.
Mhm.
Um, but I will say, I always think about this clip. Joe Rogan said something years ago about hot yoga. And he was like, when you are forced to hold a pose be feeling that burn.
Mm.
You're just dripping sweat in a hot room, and all you can do is sit there and breathe. That is the most powerful, badass thing you can do. Truly.
Yeah, the breath when you can like deepen it and steady it,
Mm.
that is what gets you through.
When you're like struggling like hell in a pose and
That's
you've
what
got
you
to
have to
just
do.
breathe,
Yeah.
it's like it's so satisfying when you come out of that pose.
Like I did it.
Yeah. And along with that, I will say, let's get rid of this stigma that both um, yoga is just for women.
Hey, there were 3 men in our
I know it
class
was a
last
great
night.
day.
That was the most that there has been.
It's
So
usually
yay.
just me.
Yeah, that's
So
cool.
it was great. But yeah, it's not, it's the same argument as skincare. You got skin, you take care of it. Like this idea that it's like a female thing is really frustrating. So yoga is for men and women. It is a unbelievable practice. It is exercise, but it's also a very spiritual, mental thing.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly good for you.
Yeah, so what are some more benefits? Any benefit you would get from exercise?
Right. So that's what I was gonna say. Pretty much any benefit you would get from exercise. So that literally, heart health, brain health, anxiety, stronger immune system, you're building muscle. Um, I will say I think yoga does a little more in the sense of like if you have joint pain or you have an area that's bothering you, like lower back, there literally is a move you can do for every part of your body to loosen it up, stretch out. And that in itself is amazing because you develop the skill to target an area.
A lot of us aren't like stretching enough. I mean,
Hmm.
I made sure like we stretched this morning at the gym because we're not stretching enough. And so if you are doing weightlifting or some other exercise and not stretching, like that doesn't help.
Yeah.
So having a whole yoga practice is like just incredible stretching for you. It's
Yeah.
definitely like a great thing to combine with other types of exercises.
Yeah. And so, I mean, in that sense, again, anything you would get from exercise, you get from yoga, but it also has those spiritual benefits of being supremely present after
Hmm.
you finish a practice. I mean, if you feel like your mental chatter is loud, your head is cluttered, you're stressed, there's so much going on, like go do a 1 hour yoga class and I guarantee you're going to come out of that in a whole different place.
Yeah. Yoga really is like a somatic practice. And somatic really just means like syncing your mind and your body and like feeling into your body, which so many of us don't do on a regular basis. And especially when you're stressed, we're almost always in our head.
Yeah.
So it's that mind body connection that you are having like that somatic practice. So that helps with regulating your nervous system. Um, and it's just really good for you. And it's just good energy, like
Yeah.
good energy, good vibes.
And that's the thing too is, you're living in a state of stress and, you're around negative people, whatever it is. But when you go to a yoga class, people aren't talking, we're not chit-chatting. Like you literally are just going to hear inhale and exhales. I
Hmm.
mean, yeah, excuse me, you'll hear your instructor, but as far as like what everyone in the class is doing, there's not this like ongoing conversation. You're going to hear inhales and exhales and people honoring their body and having their own practice. And that is a really incredible energy to be around.
Hmm.
Um, and it's also just, you get confidence from that, so you finish that practice, you walk away, you're very present, but you also did something difficult. And that's giving you confidence. You have that satisfaction of finishing the workout, but also leaving energetically in a very different state.
Yeah, absolutely. So
So, how do people get started if they're interested in yoga?
I definitely would recommend trying a YouTube video at first.
Yeah.
Yoga with Adrienne, incredible. She has hundreds of videos. She can do stuff that is slower to start. She has even like beginner videos. She has videos explaining what the poses are. And there's other YouTubers that have yoga practices. I just love her. So there's so much to start there. And then if you want to build a little bit of confidence, trying it at home first and then trying a studio,
Mm,
almost all yoga studios have some sort of like introductory rate that you can try a class. So,
yeah, and that's something I think has been so powerful for me as like I got the exposure in high school. I tried it over the years. I watched videos of yoga with Adrian. And so I had that working knowledge so that by the time I went to a class, I was able to keep up and I felt comfortable and confident. And I think that's a great way to do it. Again, yoga, like meditation, it's not about sitting there going, am I right or wrong? Is it the right move? Am I doing this correctly? Because the nature of the practice is you're constantly improving. So it's really show up as you are and do your best. If you show up, you won, you did it.
Yeah. So, highly recommend trying yoga, seeing the benefits. Let us know what you think of it.
Yeah.
Any
Yoga is for everyone.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.